weight bird in bag, so in order to get the bird's actual weight, she'll have to subtract the weight of the bag. Then we'll get the...
Lori, do you want me to write for you, or do you want to...
There's not much room
Okay.
here, the way we have it set up today.
Yeah, because we moved a table,
Yeah.
you know. But, so we already know the bird by species because, well, everybody knows what the darn things look like at this point. And,
At least if you're a birder, you do.
yeah, if you're a birder, this is just, I'm thrilled to pieces. I've been wanting one in this record, you know.
When I fill the feeders at River Trail, I have to like shoo them away. The red poles don't leave. I have to like physically like pretend like I'm gonna like
This
touch
year,
them.
everybody's feeder has been like that. In fact, I had one regular bird watcher come in here and tell me I have so many of them at my feeder, and all they do is poop all over the place. And I'm going, yeah, but it's redpoll poop.
It's exciting poop.
You don't understand. It's redpoll poop. Oh, it's such a mess. Yeah, but it's redpoll poop. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're gonna forgive him. We're gonna forgive him for pooping. So again, so we've kind of gone through the species thing. So the first thing Lori's going to do is go through the pile book, and the pile book that she uses is that little the black identification guide. This is not a field guide. This book reads like a recipe. It will tell you every measurement, every kind of minute description of what you're looking at, and it is really used for aging, sexing birds and identifying birds in the hand. It isn't helpful at all in the bush. Although I notice some bird watchers are kind of glomming onto their piles, which I kind of laugh at that a little bit because it's not helpful. It really isn't. I mean, yeah, go ahead, stick with your Sibley or your Peterson, depending on how far along you are, your birding happiness. I really recommend for beginner bird watchers, I really recommend the Peterson just because he breaks it down so nicely for beginner birders. But yeah, and then, you know, this one too, the Sibley, I laugh. Okay, do not for a second believe you can tell a male from a female robbing. You cannot, unless it's in your hand and the bird is reproducing. You cannot tell the males from the females. No, males are not darker and brighter. They could be duller than the female they're paired with. No, it does not work. We've tried it, we've experimented with it, where I said, no, you could do this. And my husband was like, fine, I age it and sex it, and then I'm gonna show it to you, and you tell me what it is. That's a male, that's a female. More than 50% of the time I was wrong.
Yeah, sure. That's interesting.
It's just, you're guessing at that point. You're just guessing. So you really have to have the rest of it. So Lori's looking that up. So in those birds that are monomorphic, or the species where males and females look the same, black-capped chickadee, blue jay, the only way we could split the genders is by what we call the sex characteristics, and this is only good during breeding cycles. So for the females, their little feathery breasts will lose all their
got a
feathers.
sparrow.
You got a birdie.
I'll go try to get it,
Okay.
and then if I have trouble, I'll
Yell, meet us. So they will lose all those feathers. They will shed them. The skin and tissue will retain fluid and become very wrinkly. It's what we call the brood patch or incubation patch. This is the area of the hen's body that she's going to lay and put in contact with the eggs and assists her transferring heat from her body to the eggs. Now, heat transfers best from like substances. So, like say water to water. Oh, you want to take a photo? From water to water. So if that's largely water, what's inside of an egg? Largely water. So it does help her to warm those eggs up properly so that the embryo inside can develop. So we look for brood patches in females. In males, we look for the male characteristic, which is the cloaca, or the vent of the bird, enlarges in breeding males. It's to help for copulation and also store sperm outside of the male's body. Again, their body temperature is over 100 degrees, maybe about 104 for many on average. And that's too hot. Sperm gets damaged at that kind of temperature. So in order to keep it cooler, it's stored outside of the male's body. And we can look for these enlarged cloacas in the males. Now, if I get an American robin, and first thing we do is pull his little legs back and blow on his tummy, or her tummy, and it's all bare and looking like a brood patch, I cannot go, oh, it's a female. because the males help with the nesting. So they will develop a brood patch as well. So we have to always look a little further on some species to look for that cloacal protuberance. When we see a cloacal protuberance, it can only be a male. Okay? So that's how we do the non-dimorphic species. Now, in the case where we have a species that is non-dimorphic this time of year before breeding has begun, it's sex unknown. So like our little American tree sparrows, not dimorphic, the males look exactly as the females and chickadees. We can't sex them unless they're actively breeding. Okay, so it becomes sex unknown. Yeah.
What about the size difference?
Okay, so one of the things you'll see Lori do is measuring a wing up here. We do what we call the wing chord. Now, as a general rule, males will have longer wings than females, but there is an area of overlap that most birds fall into. They fall right into the middle. They're not extremely long, they're not extremely short, they're right in the middle. And males and females will equal. So that is a criteria that even the banding lab doesn't want you using as a full out, this is a male, this is a female. You have to couple it with a few other things for them to accept it, not kick it back in your face saying, no, we don't accept this, call it an unknown. We prefer that. Because they want you to be, I'm sorry, I'm like so into this right now.
Oh, I'm sure I'm gonna be pulling you.
You're getting photographed right now because you're going on the damn.
She's doing it.
Am I on TV?
You're
Nope.
not. You're gonna have to move a little. There you go.
Now we can see it now.
Oh, little guy.
He's not
He's so cute, Lori, or she, we don't know yet. That's amazing.
Red on the chest, but that's not.
Also, it's under the chin. Males have a lot more red underneath the, in fact, I don't see a whole lot of red under that throat area at all. But you're gonna have to go through because there's a lot of individual variation. So this is a common redpoll, not a hoary. And again, there's a great range of coloration in this species between pale commons and darker colored. Generally speaking, common redpolls are darker coloration than hoaries, but you do get pale individuals.
Of course you do.
You got him. You're not holding in a girl.
I just couldn't remember how to like tie
No,
that
you did
knot
it
at
right.
the top.
You did it right. So one of the other things you could do is there are some measurements, but also when you look at the little face of the bird, if it has a good little beak kind of pointing out, and it doesn't look like someone put their finger right on the beak and shoved it into the bird's face, you've got a common. Hoaries always look like someone pushed their beak halfway into their feather.
There it is.
Okay, so
This is probably a silly question, but do birds carry ticks around?
yes, this is March, and to be honest with you, the time of year where I start thinking about
Today they're
ticks because-
probably out.
Takes
Yeah, they're
They're gonna
probably
be
out
out
and
today.
active today. I wouldn't doubt it at all. So I do see that. Did you read the molt area first? So pre-basics occur on the summer grounds. Okay, first pre-basic includes some to all medium coverts. So you're going to look at those coverts. And again, the other thing to really pay attention to, Lori, is that alula versus the carpal covert. So you can see that you had your finger right at that carpal covert. So you're right here, okay? And then you have alula 1, alula 2, okay? And
be choking that bird.
also look at the I'm not seeing a lot of variation there.
No, color-wise it looks the same. Glossiness it looks the same.
Glossiness, it looks the same. Okay, now also look at along here, we're going to look for darker versus less dark. Okay. And this is where you would expect to find molt limits. You're going to find them like on those innermost feathers. They're going to look darker, fresher than the ones further out. Sometimes they'll replace this one and this one, and not the ones in the middle. So those are, yeah, sometimes some birds will do that, so you want to look for that. Oh, am I in your way? It's got some really down birds. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so hatch year, second year. Okay, molt limits will occur among the medium and greater coverts. See the retained outer coverts, worn and brownish with dark buffy tips. I'm not seeing dark buffy. Contrasting with a fresher, duskier, and whitish tipped, pale buff tipped replaced inner. So where your thumb is, those are your inners.
That is very patient. Those are Wait, is that
That's a
Red
No,
balls.
it's- no, that's a snout.
Excited to have the first.
Yeah, I say it's whitish. So this is looking younger. So outer PB coverts narrow tapered, relatively abraded, and brown with indistinct narrow or no pale buffy brownish edging. So you're looking at there's not much. Okay. Outer rectrices tapered and relatively abraded. So you want to look at the outermost tail feather. And you're looking for, is it really tapered or more truncated? And again, we haven't handled this species, so what tapered looks like and what truncate looks like in this species.
forget about it.
So we have very little experience here. Okay. So let's go. Flanks entirely without pink, longest undertail coverts with heavy and distinct streaks. So you want to look at undertail coverts. So this is how this book reads.
You want to go to sleep at night? That's the book.
Yeah, you want to go to sleep at night or try to age and sex it very quickly. Yeah, so you're going to be looking at the longest undertail covert, so that's the one that's furthest down, who it actually has a very distinct streak. Molt limits in this species can be difficult to detect because the outer wing coverts are buffier than the inner coverts in both age groups. Look more for differences in wear, red shape, okay, probably is the most reliable criterion for aging. Compare with wing for reliable separation of hatch year, second year males. Many intermediates may not be reliably sexed. Okay, so worst case scenario, we have an after hatch year bird, right? Because we're in the spring. But I don't know that are we seeing enough that we feel we can call it a second year?
I mean, I think what we did see in second year was very clear. So we had, the streak there. And white tips on the inner coverts here. Wasn't that far. Oh, look how warm this one is.
Oh yeah. Yep. It's really worn out. Okay, so let's call this a second year. Now we want to separate female. So that's what we read first was female. So breast and flanks entirely without pink. So check the breast and flanks. I thought there was pink on there. So let's go to second year male. Okay, molt limit, wing covert, flight feather criteria is the same. Breast and flanks usually lightly washed pink. Longest undertail covert with moderately heavy and distinct streak. So the fact that it's got the pink in those areas, it's too much to be called a female. And this is exciting. I'm sorry, we have to,
Yes. Oh, please.
we have to work through this to get it right.
It's exciting.
It's completely crazy, but I think it's So age we decided. Oh, this is different this year. Okay.
Yes. So
Age we decided
we're saying second year. So it's a 5 still. And that's going to be off of limit present, so that's going to be LP. Okay. So now we're calling it male. And that's going to be off PL, off of plumage.
Today's the 5th?
Yeah. It's the 5th. Oh my, I can't believe it's the 5th already. And go ahead, put your little initials with your little creep.
Oh, you lost it. You gave your pen away.
I have a pen.
No, she could have signed it, but she gave her pen to
It's
her.
going to be 13:15. That's okay. But you can put 1:15. I can correct it.
Well, that was the capture time. The ending time was 1:15.
Okay. That's fine. Yeah, she'll love this.
Wow.
But you're on the 0.
1-0. All right.
Okay, next thing Lori's going to do is take that wing cord, and we will check it against what we have for the male as far as length of wing goes.
So I put 72.
72. It's right in the middle. See, here's one of those. You wouldn't be able to call it off of just the wing. It's right in the middle. Same, length that you can get for females and males.
Does the wing length change when they molt?
What was that?
Does the wing length change when they molt?
It can. Again, calling this second-year male since last year's hatch. He's still holding on to wing feathers from his juvenile first year. A lot of times they're shorter than what the full mature feather will be. So sometimes, by the time he totally matures up, he might come in with a slightly longer wing length. But even full-out adult birds, there's that huge overlap between male and female wing lengths that make wing cord just one of those measurements that we take for a lot of reasons, not just for trying to determine gender, but sometimes they're very helpful with subspecies. Even in those birds where they're confusing between species, sometimes it's very helpful for that as well. So, and it's just a general measurement all banders take. So what Lori's doing right now is she's putting a little water on the breast of this bird, right at the wishbone area, and she's looking for the fat. So we have our little diagram.
Actually, a lot of fat. So I'm going to show
So what she's looking at is this little area, what we call the furcula hollow. There's a hollow spot right in the neck. And we can see where the neck descends down into the body cavity. And when it's just a dark kind of empty space, we have no fat. And fat will start to fill that space in a little bit to the point where it starts to fill the space completely, then start to bulge out of it. And there could be so much fat on a bird that it will cover the entire abdomen of the bird. So those are self-basters, and boy, if you ever had to skin one out, they're very greasy. Not a lot of fun, because you got to get all that oil off. So fat is a condition thing. It helps us to, first of all, understand and determine a couple things. One, the condition of the bird, that it's able to get around
Here's the
and
fat.
get enough.
So you can see this
Oh,
yellow.
wow.
So this is full fat.
That's a full fat bird.
Yeah.
So he's not 98% lean, right?
No.
Oh,
He's
so
beautiful.
good. He's such a good boy.
So if he wasn't full fat,
Can you see?
you would see, that little more of a hollow in the
And what does that tell you
collarbone.
about? Is that an age indicator?
No, a health
Just-
indicator,
oh,
how good
okay.
he's eating.
Okay.
So he's been in our feeders, so he's eating well.
He's well fed.
Yeah.
You may not come back to your feeders after this morning.
Okay, so then she'll score it, how much fat is on the bird, and
So on the, you were talking about the brood patch
Full-
before. Is
full
that
fat,
below
yeah, 'cause it
that?
was filled
it's
all
be the
way
belly. Yeah, it's the abdomen. So you've got the, the
fat up
wishbone.
here.
When you're cooking the chicken and the turkey.
Yeah.
And then the big belly where the keel is. Okay, that's what we're looking at for the brood
Okay.
patch.
Cool.
Because there's not a feather tract typically right down the middle of that belly. In some families and orders of birds, yes, that occurs, but in most species, no. Even your chicken. Look, really pay attention. Next time you take a chicken and you're getting ready to cook it, you'll see all these little pimples. Those are your feather tracts. That's your tail line. That's where the body feathers actually grow. Those smoother, just slightly wrinkled areas are where there's just some down feathers that kind of come out. So it's not the big contour feathers that cover the bird. And these little birds kind of grow the same way, but those little down feathers that cover the belly fall out before the brood patch actually swells up. but it gives a lot of surface area that hen then has to put against those eggs, and so yeah, just really allows for that transfer of heat. And you know, you can actually view bird patches on American robins on dewy mornings when they're hopping through the grass and the feathers get wet. Sometimes they'll stick together and you'll see this pink belly hanging out. Yeah, that's typically could be a male, but if it's really huge, it's typically a female. Because the males do not get huge bird patches, not like the females do.
Okay, so Leslie, my only question now is for the WRP code.
Okay, so the WRP code is, we have a bird that actually is in formative plumage.
There's no more.
And there's, you know, we didn't see really any basic feathers going on, so we're going to call it a FCF, first cycle formative plumage. So whenever you're doing that, what you're doing is you're looking for the most latest generation of feather. And since we're seeing formative feathers, we are not seeing any of the basic plumage on this bird yet. We have to call it formative.
All yours. We'll get
Oh,
a picture.
he is a gorgeous. Let me put him on a proper hold for you so you can all get a shot.
So these birds must smell totally like human for a while. Do their friends avoid them?
No, birds, I could tell you a really grisly story about how birds cannot smell. So most bird species have a very poor and very underdeveloped sense of smell. And a good illustration of that is we had a nest box of bluebirds going on. And easy, sweetheart, let me just calm them down a little bit. And you know, the nestlings were coming along. We had a little cold snap, and the next thing I saw was a male house wren going in and out of the box. I'm going, well, that's weird. The babies didn't leave the nest yet, and we're the bluebirds defending the nest because they will defend. And so I better open the box, and all the babies were dead, and they smelled a high heck, but the wren had already started building a nest on top of them. So I mean, he's in that box with all this death and decomposition, and get some really nice glamour shots there. This is way awesome. Let me turn off for you, Lori. Let's go over here so we
He's lovely. He's just pretty. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at
look how
that.
black his little face is. Oh yeah, get the light on him. Oh yeah, there's a lot of red on him. Look at how, you know what's really interesting is how shiny the red is on his head.
I know, almost
so
iridescent,
vibrant.
right? It's iridescent.
It's almost iridescent, yeah, I agree.
He's beautiful.
Oh, she has to get a picture of her own redpoll.
This is one of those things that we wouldn't do if this bird was not doing okay with this, I'll tell you right now. I'd be like, nope, we're not.
Wow.
She's like, I'm gonna bite you for that.
It's always a good sign when they bite.
Yeah.
Yeah, we you know, with some species do not enjoy the pecking and the biting, but you know, like grosbeaks really hurt you when they do it. But it does show that the bird really still feels it has a chance. It hasn't. So we'll give you all a good chance to get another good look at beautiful common redpoll, young male. So he's in his second year of life, and
It's being terribly abused.
he's actually starting to show a little bit more higher level of stress right at the time.
Yeah.
So we're not going to hold on to him too much longer. But
Is
we'll
it
let-
possible to see the little band, or do you have to
You
really
would-
hold on to
no,
it?
no. I can switch my
All right,
grip.
buddy.
Oh my
There's
gosh,
his
it's
little,
so tiny.
there's his little teeny tiny band
Got a little tiny foot.
on his little teeny tiny foot.
Look at that little tiny foot. Little footy. So cute.
Okay, camera's down
All right.
because I don't.